So my first story time, I talked about my road trip to Detroit, Cleveland, Cincinnati. This one is also MLB related. I wouldn't say it's a road trip, but there are three different parts of the story. One happening this year, and the other two happening in 2017.
You say it's not a road trip, huh?
It well, technically, for the purpose of this story, it's not a road trip, but maybe for a story in the future, these two parts may pop up again.
Well, what are you waiting for? Slam on the gas pedal.
All right, so in my fair share of MLB experience, I've been to a few games, but I've also been to a few tours. Tours are really fun. You get a lot more out of tours just for like it's almost like a history lesson about how the stadium is built and what went into it and what goes on behind the scenes. So it's really interesting. But again, nothing beats the experience of going to a game. I mean, sure, go ahead, go to a tour, but game is totally different. But tours are
Hmm.
fun as well. And I remember in an earlier episode of Top of the Standings, um, we mentioned the Globe Life Field, and I think you were almost hinting at me to tell my experience at touring Globe Life Field this summer during Top of the Standings, but
Held
I,
off.
I, I held off, and I felt that it would be better to incorporate three tours that I've been on into this one story time.
Yeah, your risk definitely paid off, especially now that one of those fields is the site of the World Series.
I know. I had to tell it now. I had to. This was a perfect opportunity, and I'm telling you, these some of these facts are insane, and I think the audience will also enjoy some of these facts because they're things that you can only get out of a stadium tour. Like you can't most of these things you can't really look up. I mean, I suppose you can, but I've gotten all of these nice little fun facts from these tours. So I guess I will start with my most recent tour. And I'm telling you, we have this for Top of the Standings. We have this little document that we type all of our notes in, and we've had this Globe Life Fun Facts little like notes up for at least maybe 3 or 4 months, and I've been waiting to tell the story. So I'll start there. So Globe Life Field, if you've seen any of the memes, it kind of I forgot what they called it. It almost looks like
A
a
barbecue
grill.
grill.
Yeah, it looks like a grill from the outside. And it's funny because I learned that the reason they went to the dome was because in Texas, obviously, it's a really hot place. So that's exactly the reason they have domes in every single stadium that they have. No more open stadiums in Texas, which I thought is very fascinating. Um, but yeah, Globe Life Field is in Arlington. It's right across the street from AT&T Stadium, Cowboys, and other festivities that go on in college football and the
Mhm.
NFL. And really, I wouldn't say maybe 100 yards away is the old Globe Life field. Um, that both they're in very close distance, and it's really cool because this new Globe Life field it has like an entertainment area outside. There's like a hotel with like a pool and like different cool things, but
Mhm.
that has nothing to do with the stadium. From the outside, again, it looks like a grill. It's not the most appealing stadium, but from my experience, right when I walked into center field, that's where the tour started. It
Hmm.
really looked like the right field was very similar to where the Mariners play. Um, I I really I
Hmm.
I guess all indoor ballparks look similar, but this one it looks like a combination of Seattle and Arizona. And even on TV, it kind of looks like Arizona from the center field.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it's pretty cool. Inside it's very large. There's a lot of walking room. Center field, if you ever go there and if you want to sit somewhere and you want to get a home run, I would sit in center field because even for like a home run derby, I could see so many home runs being hit to center field. It's a really, really open ballpark with a very open concourse with the concession stands. Obviously, they weren't open, but yeah, this tour is also weird because it's the first tour that I had to go on wearing a mask. It's really, really random, but yeah, it was very open. Um, but here are some of the fun facts that I learned. So obviously, AT&T Stadium is known for its big jumbotron, right? The
Hmm.
massive, state of the art jumbotron. Well, this one is similar. I remember the tour guide said Jerry didn't want to have his jumbotron outdone by the Rangers. So this jumbotron in Globe Life Field is only about 10 feet shorter than AT&T, which is still pretty big. Still pretty big.
Oh my goodness.
It's in right field, so above the right field like third deck seats. So it's kind of weird. So if you sit in right field in the upper deck, you will not be able to see that jumbotron. But I believe there's also one in left field as well. But yeah, that they mentioned the jumbotron. Then we went up, and then the tour guide actually mentioned something that was very interesting that I had never heard of. So when I played in Cooperstown, I played on turf. I also played uh on turf fields during playing like travel baseball. And
Ooh,
honestly, I think they're some of the most fun fields to play on
really?
because it's almost like you're when you're playing, it's obviously it will not hurt to slide. That's one that's one positive.
Oh yeah.
Um The only negative is that the bounces could be so erratic. I remember in Cooperstown, like I just mentioned, there was this field called Yankee Stadium. It was a turf field with the Yankees logo. Cooperstown is in New York, so I guess there's a relation there. It was turf, but I remember I was playing first base, and it was the first game that we had played in Cooperstown, and this one, I believe, right-handed batter hit uh, a pretty hard ground ball to me at first. And the turf, again, turf is really weird playing ground balls because it could hit like one thing and it goes almost over your head. So the ball took a bad bounce and hit me in the shoulder, and that's I guess what turf does. I was able to make the play because it's fantastic. No, I'm kidding. Uh, no, um, uh, yeah, but turf really weird bounces. You can get some really weird hops and stuff off of turf. So a way that the Rangers were able to counter the bad hops and bad bounces were they didn't use the normal um I guess turf in some places is made of like cut tires. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Yeah,
What?
so all that black stuff in the turf is tire.
What?
Yeah.
No, bro. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really didn't know that either. I guess that's why it almost hurts when you hit your knee because it's so like hard. Like the tire is tough. Um, yeah, so that's like cut up tire. The black stuff in the turf is cut up tire.
So that's why my knees always hurt when I played in the turf room.
Yeah, that's probably a reason why. That's why there's a lot of like knee injuries in the NFL as well. If you like on the turf, that's obviously gonna hurt. Tire hurts.
Yeah, that
So
hurts.
that definitely is a reason why Globe Life Field actually does not have the tire. They have coconut husk turf. Coconut.
Coconut husk.
Um, this was interesting because again, I you see turf and you think of the tire, and I was like, okay, so it's interesting that they have the turf and the tour guide he mentioned that it's actually not the tire, it's coconut husk, and I think it's softer. It's softer. It takes away some of the bad hops and bad bounces and stuff, which is again very interesting. I think he said it's the only team in the MLB to have that coconut husk. I believe he said AT&T is the only stadium in the NFL that has coconut husk as well.
Coconut husk.
Yeah, so if you look that up, I believe you'll find the exact reason it like takes away bounces and injuries. I believe coconut husk turf. I thought that was really interesting because I no one thinks like, oh, I'm gonna go out to the field. Like I'm playing on coconut. Like that's weird.
That sounds so awkward.
It's funny that I mean it's fascinating. I mean, who would have thought that like turf is made out of coconut husk? It's weird.
I mean, you think of turf, I think of turf. I'm thinking artificial grass,
Yeah,
not bootleg food source.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No tire, coconut husk. That was just weird. Um, the stadium is pretty big as well. I think they said it's on 13 acres of land, which again is pretty big for a stadium. Um, And yeah, another thing that was interesting about the field is that he said Globe Life Field is the warning track. It's obviously all warning tracks are like almost like dirt, right?
Hmm.
Well, he said this warning track is made up of crushed brick. This warning track at Globe Life Field was the only stadium plus the old Ranger Stadium were the only two to have crushed brick as the warning track.
Crushed brick. That doesn't sound very pleasant.
No, imagine like falling on that and like getting a face full of crushed brick. That hurts.
Oh my gosh, a face full of dirt is already bad enough. A face full
Yeah,
of crushed brick. Come on,
yeah,
man.
yeah. And the reason they have crushed brick is it's almost like a strategic advantage. And I think it also lessens the chances of like trying to dive in this crushed brick. Is that this crushed brick as a warning track is very crunchy and loud. And you know how some players don't realize that they're in a warning track. Similar to like Aaron Judge, he tried to rob that home run against the Rays and then hit his head on like the wall, basically, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reason for the warning track. So you don't run headfirst into the wall. So you know that the wall is coming up. And by using the crushed brick, it's easy for players to know that they're on the warning track and that the wall is near because it's very crunchy and loud.
Ah, okay. That might not sound as painful now.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to know that you're in the warning track and try not to dive. Yeah, those parts of the field were very interesting. The coconut husk and now the crushed brick. Then we went upstairs to the broadcasting room and where the writers sit for the games. Pretty cool place. But up here we saw a perfect view of the outfield walls. And this is very unique. I had never heard of a team to make their walls a special distance. So like I believe their left field wall was or their left field wall is 372, right? 372 feet.
Hmm.
And obviously, most fields have distances in the 300s for their outfield walls. But the reason they went 372 is because 1972 was the first year that the Rangers had a winning season.
Oh, so they were paying homage to the first winning season?
Yeah, and by having like an outfield dimension. Isn't that like unique? I was like, wow, that's really cool. So now every time you see that left field and you see 372, that 72 is for the Rangers' first winning season.
In 1972. Wow,
Yeah.
that almost sounds like a subtle flex.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for a decently old team. I mean, if you think about it, baseball's been around since the late 1800s, so I wouldn't call that a flex. Almost 72 years before you get your first winning season. I honestly don't know when the Rangers came in as a franchise. So maybe that was like a few years after their team was created. So maybe then that would be unique. But let's say they're a really old team. 72 is a little bit late to have your first winning season. So nonetheless,
Okay.
I thought that was pretty cool to have like the outfield dimension, like you said, pay homage to that. I think center field is 407, which pays homage to Ivan Rodriguez, Pudge Rodriguez, their fantastic catcher, former Tiger, who was one of the best catchers to ever play the game of baseball. 407, his number was 7.
Interesting. So there's a lot of history behind this, apparently.
Yeah, definitely for the outfield walls. They mentioned a few other things for I think one of their another part of their outfield is 342, Jackie Robinson 42, something like that. It a lot of unique outfield dimensions there, which I had never seen in any of my tours before. So I thought that was really cool.
Huh. Okay, so Globe Life Field has a pretty nice touch to it.
Yeah, and I guess we'll be seeing a lot first time with fans as well. This is going to be very exciting to see them in the playoffs. But uh, that's about all the fun facts that we learned on the tour. But there was one thing that was very unique as well. We went to the bottom floor, I believe, and there's like this old fashioned bar. Like it looked like a bar from the Wild Wild West, and it's for like the people who have like the nice season tickets behind the home plate. Like they get like free food down there.
What?
Yeah, there's like this whole like basement area where there's tons of like almost restaurants and like buffets with like fancy food that all like the season ticket holders can get free food to.
Huh. That
Yeah,
that's that sounds very luxurious.
it is, and honestly, all these stadium tours had those type of places, and I think the coolest. I'm just gonna move on from Globe Life Field because that's about it, and the overall Globe Life Field is a very nice stadium. Like I said, I think the coolest thing you can go to is like a home run derby and sit in center field because it's really fantastic and it's so open. The dome is so open. It's similar almost to Houston and like the roof. But yeah,
Hmm.
that it's a really nice stadium. I wouldn't call it my favorite stadium I've ever been to. But yeah, overall it's very nice. It's a very nice stadium. Pretty cool.
That's good to hear. I really
Yeah,
like that. I really like
yeah.
that their stadium, their renovation. Well, I won't say renovation, their rebuild. That really that's awesome. I'm looking at it and I'm just like, oh my gosh, the indoor stadiums just get sexier and sexier in sports.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similar touches that they did to the old Globe Life stadium. Uh, very similar in that they took things from the old stadium and put them into this new stadium. So really cool, really nice place, very open, and we'll be seeing a lot of it during these playoffs. Next park that I want to talk about. This one is Nationals Park. I went to Nationals Park in the summer of 2017, part of an East Coast road trip that could potentially be a story time in the future. But we did not see a game during at Nationals Park during our trip, and instead we just decided to take the tour. So this one was very unique in a way that was different from all the other ones, in that it had a lot of I wouldn't say U.S. history, but a lot of presidential history.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things that happened um, that presidents, or I wouldn't say presidents, but like I said, I mentioned the nice like season ticket holder like restaurants and like clubs
Mm-hmm.
below like behind home plate, and the that's why you see those people sitting behind home plate not always there at like in their seats because I guarantee they're probably in the club areas.
I never knew that.
So you remember when James Harden and Russell Westbrook were went to the Astros, the Yankees, was that game 7, right?
Oh yeah, that's the reason.
I don't know if that's a reason, but I guarantee if because they were gone, they were probably in the club area.
Oh my goodness. So
Yeah,
they really do expand on this club area stuff, huh?
yeah, and Nationals Park, the craziest like club area I've ever seen. I mean, um, let me start at the top. We toured around the stadium. There's a lot of like I wouldn't. It's before we I mean, we went in 2017, so they really did not have a successful history. Let's say we went this year or last year, then there there might have been a little more cool tidbits. But I mentioned this to you earlier. There's one seat along the first baseline that only season ticket holders know about is that there's an area in the stadium where you can directly see the Washington Monument.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. I can't remember the actual name of the section or the seat number, but only one place in the entire stadium that you can see the Washington Monument in that entire Nationals Park. And it's interesting because Nationals Park and where the Wizards play and where uh, the football team plays is not even near any of the monuments in Washington D.C. It's weird. It's I don't know, maybe like 10, 15 miles away. It's not. It's nowhere near where you think they would be.
Yeah, I noticed that too because like the Washington football team plays in Maryland. The Wizards, I mean, it's in DC, but it's not DC.
Yeah, yeah.
And then of course the Capitals play in the same place as the Wizards. But then I'm surprised that that these places are not like right next to the Nationals Park.
Yeah, I mean, I would, I would, I would have thought the same thing too. I would have thought that the monuments and like all the famous landmarks would be closer to the park, but it's almost like the 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 stadiums are in the city, whereas the monuments are kind of away from the city, which is something that you don't really think about. But yeah, there's one seat in that entire place that you can see directly straight on to the Washington Monument. From any other place that you sit or stand, you will not be able to see it. Only one place in that entire stadium that you can see the Washington Monument, and I think they did that on purpose.
Hmm, that's that's kind of like a nod, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I would consider Washington D.C. to have obviously the most famous landmarks of all anywhere. So I mean, you have to incorporate that, especially when your team's the Nationals. Uh, really, the upper area where the seats are pretty normal, pretty basic, what you would expect from a a a, a MLB stadium. I do remember. I'm not going to throw shade at this one kid that was on the tour, but this kid was like a know-it-all, and our tour was trying to like give the fun facts, and then the know-it-all kid would like try and like counter argue the tour guide.
Are you serious?
Dude, it was really annoying. Like uh they I think the tour guide mentioned Babe Ruth, and the kid was like, Babe Ruth never played here, never ever never did, and you're lying. Like, dude, like, please be quiet. No, no.
And even if he was wrong, like, come on, man.
It's not that serious. Chill out. And like the parents wouldn't do anything. It was really annoying. But nonetheless, the upper deck and that area pretty interesting, um, pretty normal, honestly. But like I said, the 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 clubs in the lower part of the stadium, basically like the basement, um, were honestly the most fantastic places. I would literally, if that was like, if you could go into that place without having season tickets, I would go there. Like, I would love to have season tickets in Nationals Park because those clubs are
Hmm.
insane. I think there are two different clubs, and one is I think a presidential club, um, where they have uh pictures of every president who's thrown the first pitch at a Nationals game on the wall. Um, Down there, there's obviously like a bar, but that's not the best part about this presidential club. This
Really?
presidential club has like, you know how in like police interrogation rooms they have like those one-way mirrors.
Yeah.
They basically have a one-way mirror into the press conference room that after every game you can sit and watch the coach or players do their press conference in the
Really?
club.
In the club?
In the club, there's a one-way mirror that you can watch the press conference.
Whoa.
I
Now
thought that yeah, it's
whoa.
fantastic.
That's very cool. That's cool right there. I'm telling you, I had no idea about these things. Whoa.
Yeah, I didn't either, and it's not something you think about. I mean, when you see a baseball field, you can't see the club. Obviously, it's behind the seats. It's like in the basement. Um, but another part to this presidential club was that there was another one-way mirror into the clubhouse uh batting cages.
Another one?
Yeah. So in the clubhouse, there, you know how sometimes during games you see pitchers or batters go down into the clubhouse with like a bat down the stairs and into like the tunnel, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they go in there to practice their hitting because there's a batting cage and probably pitchers use that for to practice pitching as well.
Hmm.
They do that before the games and stuff. So um, yeah, there's a one-way mirror into the clubhouse batting cage.
Wow, dude. A one way what?
Mirror.
Mirror.
Yeah,
Wow.
like I'm pretty sure it's one way. I mean, I think it would be weird for, you know, I'm honestly, that's just my observation. I think it'd be weird for a coach to like do his press post game interview with like a bunch of fans looking at him through a mirror. So
Ye-
that's why I think it's probably one way.
That would be very awkward too, because it's like what if you lost the game
Yeah.
and you got to explain what happened in front of the fans right then and there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so those are two really cool things about the clubhouse. Yeah, I really enjoyed that clubhouse. And then to get out of the clubhouse, you walk straight out and right on to like behind home plate. It's fantastic. I'm telling you, if you ever took a tour of Nationals Park, they would show you that, and you would be mind blown. I mean, I can't do it justice by just telling it. This place was fantastic. It was the craziest club that I've ever seen in a stadium. Overall, I yeah, fantastic. You
Wow.
could see the press conference and you could see batting cages, and well, players could potentially use them during games. Really cool.
That's crazy, man. You are making me really salty right now.
Dude, you need to go out to DC, take a tour.
I
Um,
need to go to a baseball stadium.
anyone, anyone. Um, yeah. So though that was pretty cool. Um, but that's not it. We were able to tour um the locker rooms because they were not playing. You can only tour the locker rooms when obviously they're not playing because why would you? You literally can't tour a locker room when players are in there. That would just be weird.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we were able to tour both home and away locker rooms. And when I tell you there is a big difference between away and home, that
No.
it's crazy. Obviously the home locker room is going to be a lot better for
Damn.
obvious reasons. Um, but I remember the tour guide telling us that the Nats did like some trollish thing where they put like a board game into the away locker room, and it was like throwing shade. I forgot what they were talking about. This was in 2017, so it was probably before the Astros cheated. So, nonetheless, there's a lot of cool tidbits. I mean, it was also interesting that they have a big chart of every single umpire in both locker rooms to see who's like going out that day. Like they have a picture of every single umpire in the MLB on the locker room wall,
Hmm.
so they know like who's umping today, and they can see their tendencies or whatnot. Pretty cool.
Really? That's an interesting little thing right there.
Yeah, there's the locker rooms. I mean, it's what you expect in a locker room. They were pretty nice. But then that's not the best thing we did. We were able to walk on the field. That was pretty cool. Actually, in Texas, we weren't able to go into the locker room because of COVID concerns, and we were not able to walk on the field, unfortunately. But in DC, we were able to go into the locker room and walk on the field, and I had to. I just had to touch the dirt. I had to get some authentic um, MLB baseball field dirt. Had to save
Authentic.
it, put it in my pocket. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh, I was about to say, dude.
Yeah, I'm kidding. But I believe the way we got onto the field was going into the dugouts, which was pretty cool. I sat in the dugout, pretty cool. Little thing. It's again exactly what you'd expect. And we actually the last thing we did, we were able to go into the bullpen and throw one pitch.
A pitch.
Yeah, one pitch. I think what the tour guide did. He set up a tee and put a ball on the tee, and you would stand on the pitcher's mound and try and knock the ball off the tee. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not a pitcher. I'm not a pitcher. This was after my incident, and I couldn't hit the baseball off the tee, unfortunately.
Dang, dude.
Yeah, I didn't hit the ball off the tee, but before we got to the bullpen, I was actually able, or I no one else did this, but I I robbed a home run. Not literally, but I was able to like jump against the wall and like put my hand over the wall, like act like I robbed a home run.
Ah, okay.
It was pretty cool. That again, Nationals Park. It's kind of what you would expect the normal MLB stadium to be like. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, this next one, Oriole Park at Camden Yards, was maybe top of the list on the stadiums I've been to.
Oh, really?
This stadium, I was actually able to see a few games played, as well as tour it. Um, this Camden Yards has a ton of history. So cool. First we walk in, and it's almost like a gated community in that there isn't really um like a a place where you enter. There's really one singular place that you enter, and it's almost like a street, and then you walk along the street, and then to the right is the stadium. So at the beginning of the street there's like a gate, and that's how you get in. And the street is famously known as Utah Street, and on the street it's the right field, almost like pavilion, in front of the warehouse. If you've ever seen a game played at Camden Yards, you know the warehouse in right field, right?
Yeah, that place.
Yeah, the big building. Um, it's very unique. You don't really see buildings that close to a stadium, but that's actually part of the stadium. That's not outside of it. That's part of the stadium.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that it's a really interesting part of Camden Yards. But in front of that, again, is a road, and it's Utah Street. And in right field, they have a bunch of stars with players' names who have hit home runs in right field during games. So I believe there's a what I can't. I think there's only one star on that warehouse, and it's Ken Griffey Jr. His
Hmm.
home run that hit the warehouse during the home run derby.
Whoa, are you serious?
Yeah, so he hit that pretty far. So on that street, aside from Ken Griffey Jr.'s home run and star on the warehouse, there's a ton of stars on that, on like the ground where players have hit home runs and into that area during the game, which I thought was a unique thing that they I guess they mark where the ball hit every time a home run is hit out there. But yeah,
Hmm.
this place had so much history. In the outfield there are, I believe, two orange seats, which kind of stand out from the rest of the green seats.
Hmm.
These two orange seats are both commemorative seats. Um, one of these seats is where Cal Ripken Jr. hit his 278th home run, which then broke the record for most home runs hit by a shortstop. So he hit that seat, and they decided to replace it with an entirely orange seat. So you know something special happened there.
Wow. So that's a special seat now all of a sudden.
Yeah, so if you ever watch a game there and you see an orange seat in the outfield, there you go. That's why. And the other orange seat is Eddie Murray's 500th home run. So there's two orange seats out there, and they're both for like milestone hits and home runs.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Um, and then another thing that I thought was very fascinating was there. You know how I mentioned Globe Life Field's turf, right?
Yeah.
Well, Camden Yards does not have turf. It has grass, and you know how in every batter's eye there's like obvious the batter's eye is like a either black or green like wall, so the batters are able to see the ball. If it was let's say there was no batter's eye, it would be hard see the ball as from a batter's point of view. So that's the reason they have the batter's eye. But in front of the batter's eye, there is a patch of grass similar to, I don't know what other field has this, but there's a behind the wall there's a grass area, almost like the hill at the old Ranger Stadium that people would run on for every home run. Um,
Mm.
but this grass is not just like grass for show. They actually grow their own grass in the outfield and replace like different patches of grass that are used like in game, like in the actual like center field, right field, left field. They replace that grass with grass that they grow behind the center field wall.
With grass that they grow.
Yeah. So let's say like a big piece of grass comes up, like a player trips over it and grass comes up. So what they would do, they would take that grass that they grow in the outfield and replace it with, or they would take the grass that they grow in the outfield, bring that and put it where the grass that came up, which is interesting.
Are you serious? So when they see grass get taken down, they take that bad grass out and they just put in new grass just like that?
Yeah. Isn't that isn't that
Huh?
interesting?
What?
Yeah. I was like I've never even seen that before. That's pretty cool.
Oh my goodness, dude. That's crazy. This is crazy.
Yeah, and this may be the coolest thing out of any stadium that I've ever been to that I learned of. So, Baltimore. Baltimore is it was definitely a very very old city from the beginning of um, the U.S. existence. But um, another interesting thing that I said you can only get from this tour is that you obviously know the great Bambino Babe Ruth, right?
Hmm.
No matter if you're a baseball fan, if you're a hockey fan, if you're an NBA fan, you've 100% heard the name Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
One of the most iconic, I would say, sports athletes of all time. He's been in the name of like not even sports, but like just everyday conversation, like referring to his name, like in movies and whatnot. Babe Ruth, in my opinion, probably the greatest player to ever play the sport of baseball. So when you think of Babe Ruth, you think, oh, he's probably from New York, right? New York. He played for the Yankees, famous Yankee, right?
Hmm.
Well, what we learned, which still blows my mind, is that Babe Ruth is actually from Maryland, and before the stadium was built, there was like I don't know if it was a bunch of houses or like a house complex, but Babe Ruth's family and Babe Ruth grew up on a house that was now Camden Yards. Like his house, if that stadium was never created, his house would be in center field. That's where he grew up. He
I'm
grew up
done.
literally on Camden Yards, and I thought that was so fascinating. What are the chances?
I'm done. I'm done, bro. I'll catch you later, bro. That's crazy. That's too much for me. This is too much for me, bro. This is too much, bro. How did they build a they that is basically Babe Ruth's home.
It
That's
is.
basically his crib.
100%. It Babe Ruth literally lived on what is now Camden Yards. Insane. I was like, no way. That is so crazy.
Uh, I don't get it, man. I just don't get it.
I don't either. Another thing that we learned about Babe Ruth is that he went to this almost like a baseball like all boys like high school or like I went maybe like a college where he played baseball and it was all boys school, right? So his name is George Herman Ruth. That's his real name. His first name is not Babe.
Yeah.
But how he got the name Babe Ruth is that from this little like all boys um like I university or whatever. He was the youngest person at that campus, right? Youngest person in the entire school. So they named him. He was like Baby Ruth, Babe Ruth, and that's how he got his nickname.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because he was like the baby of all the of like the group.
Oh
Babe
my
Ruth,
goodness.
Babe, and that's what he went with his the rest of his life. Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Just wow, man.
Yeah, a lot of interesting Babe Ruth facts from this tour. Yeah, we went up in like the area where the press boxes and again where the writers stay in, but from there, there's like almost a tunnel to get there. It was like a very narrow hallway, and it's exactly what you would think like an old newsroom would be like. There was in that like tunnel on the way to the press box. There were like wires hanging down. There's like the ceiling was like coming apart. There's again wires like all up the wall and on the ceiling. It was like the most old school like hallway I've ever been in.
Oh my goodness.
The stadium was very old, and I remember we went into the press box and they told us to take a seat. And guess where my dad and I sat? We sat on the Detroit Free Press, like where they were supposed to sit during the game against the Tigers. So we got lucky enough to sit right where the Detroit writers were sitting, which I thought was funny.
The Detroit Writers. Wow. Right there,
Yeah,
huh?
randomly just sat down and oh, Detroit Free Press. That's where they sit during the game. Um, but yeah, another cool thing. In the press box, I believe in the three stadiums that we toured, they do not have glass in front of them. They some do and some don't. And the primary reason is that sometimes foul balls come up to the press box and it could either break the window or go right through it. So most of the time they just have no glass in front of them so the
Hmm.
ball can, not break anything. But there was actually dents on the back wall of the press box.
Dance.
Dents from foul balls.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was a really really old school type thing. Definitely not a new stadium. There was a near the elevator to get up to the top section. There was a perfect view of where the Ravens play too, and that stadium is entirely purple. It's crazy.
Are you serious? Oh my gosh. See, why don't cities do this more often?
I don't know. It the the most unique, real quick, the most unique thing about Detroit is that I believe they are the only city in that every pro sport is in with like a mile away of each other.
That's how I think that's how it should be.
Yeah, I agree because before the Pistons played at Palace of Auburn Hills, which is really far away from Detroit, um, maybe about 25 minutes. Yeah, it's really interesting. Like I went to a Lions game, and then that same day I went to a Red Wings game. It's crazy. It's in walking distance, a really cool place. But nonetheless, yeah, this the Orioles park at Camden Yards, fantastic place. Definitely the coolest stadium, just from the tidbits and the fun facts and everything I got from it. Really old school stadium. If I were to go to another stadium, I'd go there again. Um, Another interesting thing is that Maryland and Baltimore are pretty big, like known for seafood, right? So during games, you can get like a crab or lobster sandwich, which I thought was interesting. I mean,
Ew.
you think I honestly love lobster. I like crab as well, but it's funny that you think of baseball as like oh,
Hot
hot
dog.
dogs, popcorn, stuff like that. No, lobster and good crab sandwiches.
Oh. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I dude, at that point when we went to the game, I was sick of crab because we had eaten it all our entire trip in Baltimore. I was like, nah, I can't eat any more crab. That was gonna make me sick. But yeah, that the Oriole Park is a must go. If you've never been there, put that towards the top of your list. The coolest place ever.
Camden Yards, huh?
Yeah, I
Huh.
literally really really cool place. Definitely my favorite tour. Definitely probably my favorite stadium I've been to for sure. But yeah, that was about it. It definitely ran pretty long. I mean, I had a lot of information and tidbits. I like I said, tours you can get so much out of it. Obviously, nothing beats the game environment, but just going on a tour to learn more about the stadium and history of baseball is pretty fun. In my opinion, I think that baseball history is the most interesting history that is out there. Like
2020.
I've watched like so many like documentaries about the game of baseball, dude. I sound like a nerd, but literally, I literally watched a documentary by Ken Burns called Baseball, and it's like 2 hour episodes of the history of baseball, and I watched there, and I was very interested. So that's probably why when I talk about baseball, I go very in depth into like the history and stuff because it's so fascinating to me.
Wow, that I'm not used to hearing you getting really deep into history like that.
Hey,
Like deep,
I'm
deep.
sports history. I honestly think I could be a sports historian. Other than that, it's I mean some things are more exciting than others, but for the most part, kind of boring. But baseball, sports history, so much fun to learn. And like I gave so many like the Babe Ruth thing. That's
I didn't know.
fascinating. That's fascinating.
That's crazy, man. That's not that. That's fascinating and it's crazy at the same time. 'Cause this is stuff I didn't. I like obviously I knew who Babe Ruth was. Obviously, great baseball player at the time, probably the greatest ever, arguably. But dude, I didn't know my man's house, bro. Bro, one of the baseball stadiums is literally this man's backyard, bro.
It's crazy. I mean, I don't know how they figured that out. It's insane. It really is.
That's just crazy, man. I don't know. I don't know, man. The second I go on a stadium tour, oh my gosh.
I think you'd enjoy it because from what I've seen, you also enjoy learning about different things about sports. So you would get a ton of information from this. It's really fun. But yeah, you know what you got next week?
Oh boy. You know what? There's so many stories that I could tell at this perfect moment. I don't know which one to choose right now.
Hey,
That's how you know.
I like it. I like the mysteriousness about it.
Yeah, dude. I that see when you have so many stories to tell that you don't know which one you're gonna tell next, that's how you know you got some good stuff on tap.
Yeah, like as you just said, I don't even know what I have going next for me either.
Well, at least you got 2 weeks and I got one.
That is true.
Oh
But yeah.
man. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that was a fun story time. Very informative. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you're watching and listening on YouTube. If you're listening on streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, be sure to leave a 5-star rating. This has been top of the standings Storytime Special 10. We 10 weeks already. This is crazy and we got many more left. And yeah, Andrew, Jotham, we're out. Peace. We're out. Peace. We're out.